Welcome to My Wild Magic with me, your host, Adrienne Cobb. Join me on a journey back home to your truest self in this inspiring, enlightening, and entertaining show. After a near-death experience in a car crash at 15 years old, I made a choice to stay and brought back with me 3 simple truths that I found from the other side. Love is all there is. Our time is over here quicker than we think, and we all have a purpose, a soul blueprint to fulfill. On this show, you will find a higher purpose, a creative expression, and unique soul attributes that you can bring forth into this world. Stay tuned with me for the next hour and find your higher purpose on My Wild Magic, starting now. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining the call today. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the Lionsgate portal, which if you don't know what that is, stay tuned. We're going to talk about that up front. And today, my guest on the show is Celeste Brooks, who comes in really kind of from a more of a corporate background, but it does astrology and really helps people, particularly when it comes to a lot of the corporate astrology and helping people to make transitions like that. And she's also really good at the moon energy. So we're going to be looking at the moon energy as well. So welcome, Celeste.
Welcome to me. Thank you, Adrienne. I'm saying welcome. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit how you got started. Like it sounds like that's a pretty radical jump, which I do have corporate clients. And when they want to get into an alternative field, it's like, it's a big jump, you know, financially, mentally. Will people in your family, friends accept you? So kind of what happened for you?
Yes, yeah. So I've had an interest in esoteric things for the last couple of decades, but I started studying astrology in earnest back in 2019 when my progressed sun, so for people who know progressions, moved into the sign of Cancer, squaring my midheaven. So it was like something else needed to grow in my life. And I just feel like it's like my passion, my purpose guided me on the way to make the transition. Yes, it was a huge thing. I knew I wanted to retire from corporate America by 50, but I had no idea how I was going to do it. But yeah, astrology came into my life and took it over, and I just took steps one after the other using the moon cycles in order to grow my astrology business while I was in transition. So yes, that is how I worked with it. And I was having a Uranus over my sun transit, which is like invasion of the body snatcher. So, you know, that's how that came about.
So did you know a lot about astrology, or were you into it earlier in your life? Like you said, over the last couple of decades, it's something that you had an interest in, or you studied? Did you go get training in it?
Yeah. So I had been interested mostly just in horoscopes. And then I was invited to an astrology class by an astrologer. And it was a week-long class, and that got me going on it. And then I've taken 3 longer programs for astrology. I took Deborah Silverman's school and Rebecca Gordon's school, completed all those classes. They're both well-known astrologers, and took the School of Traditional Astrology's horary program. So yes, I have my diploma for horary astrology as well. So I have studied incessantly astrology since I started. And it's something where no matter how, you could live 3,000 years and there's still more to learn.
It's interesting you're mentioning 3,000 years, because I actually do think, just kind of tuning into you, that you probably have done astrology and sacred geometry and chart readings of people in past lives, it feels like, which I wonder, sometimes when people do get into certain arts, certain creative arts, healing arts, if they do have a big history of that in their energy field, that they draw upon in their soul's wisdom. I mean, do you feel like you've had some past lives that were pretty significantly tuned in on that level?
I've been told that before by someone who read my Akashic record. So I feel like my name is Celeste. My mother gave me this name.
That was the other thing I was going to ask, if it was just a given name or a...
Yes, it's just a given name. A friend in college had the name and she loved it. And in my chart, I have Uranus at my IC, which as well speaks to maybe having been an astrologer before, as well as my son is in a biquintile to Uranus, which is a way to synthesize energies in unique ways. And one of my mentors, Ann Ortley, mentioned that she thought that's why astrology just like zing, zing, zing came in with me because of that aspect.
So yeah, that's pretty fascinating actually. And I'd imagine like there's the chart, which is kind of logistical. And I'd imagine a lot of your upbringing and corporate, like the way your corporate mind kind of works seems very structured and very grounded and very realistic. Sometimes I think spiritual studies and astrology and things like that can be a little bit out there, for people, a little bit too out there for people. And they're like, I had a reading, but I don't really know what it all means. It seems like you're so structured and you learn so much that you have a practical way of expressing it to people. Is that true about you? I haven't actually had a reading with you, so that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Taurus sun, which gives me practicality, groundedness, and
okay.
Yeah, it has to be tangible use. So things you can use tangibly. Okay. I have an Aries moon, so my goal is to help inspire people and help them see maybe things they didn't see about themselves, like hidden talents. Sometimes I tell people things that they thought, well, that's just how I am, and really help them understand how it's a talent as well as see their blind spots. And then I'm a Cancer rising, so there's that consultative, nurturing energy to help people and guide them.
The whole package. You're just meant for this, basically. You're just meant for this career.
And 5 planets in the 11th house. So there you go.
Yeah, right. There you go. That says it all. Okay, so we're going to introduce a little bit the Lionsgate. The cool thing about Celeste and I is that we know each other, sort of meeting each other, know each other through Tiffany Harlick, who does some of the other astrology on the show, if you've seen her in the past. And we're all coming together, Tiffany, myself, and Celeste, in the Lionsgate portal astrology thing that's coming up here pretty soon. So I'm just going to do a little read through here on what that is if people don't know, and then if you can elaborate for me. So the Lionsgate portal is a potent and astrological portal that happens once a year, and it activates abundance and your heart's wild calling. So every year from July 28th until August 12th, the Lionsgate portal opens, peaking on August 8th, making it that beautiful infinity sign. And it combines ancient astrological wisdom with numerological frequencies to open roads, clear paths, and grant wishes. The celebration of the Lionsgate dates back thousands of years to the ancient Egyptians and Mayans. So for this, if you wanted to sign up to participate in this weekend-long event, it's going to be August 7th and 8th. You can go to Wise Skies Collective. That's WISESKIESCOLLECTIVE, Wise Skies Collective.com, and you can sign up. And it's a pretty simple course, and it's going to be day one, learn how birth order, moon phases, and sun gates can help you realign with your life's greater mission to be yourself. So it seems like Lionsgate is a lot about being your true self. And it feels like what you're going to be doing on the 7th, Celeste, is really doing the moon cycle strategies to get out of corporate and into maybe your true self. I will actually be doing a closing ceremony on the 8th, the actual Lionsgate, and you can join me when we do this as a blessing ball ceremony as well. So you can become a member of Wise Skies, and I think this might be included for free, or it might be $88 maybe for non-members. But it sounds like it's a whole weekend event that just has multiple teachers, and you're being blessed in kind of like this quantum prayer field of energy to get the most out of this Lionsgate. And with everything that's gone on, I mean, we could just use some good news. We could use a little bit of Leo boost energy. So can you talk a little bit more at all about in terms, I'm really curious about how it dates back thousands of years into the ancient Egyptian Mayans. Do you know anything about that, or anything else you can illuminate us about the importance of Lionsgate as we're coming into it this year?
Yes. So first I'll say it's free for Wise Skies members.
Yeah.
And I suggest you check it out. That is amazing.
Well, and the Wise Skies members, I think is like $20
I think it's $30-something a month.
Okay. Yeah. So it's worth it. If you just become the member for a month, you get everything for the month plus this course. Otherwise, it's $88 for just that one course. So it really is the bigger deal just to become the member for that. But they offer human design. They offer astrology teachings. Tiffany does Voyager Tarot card. I mean, all kinds of tarot card readings. There's a lot of member benefits, I think, with this program.
Yeah. And she's doing a psychic development course now that I have been joining, and it's really wonderful.
Yeah. And I actually think she's using my book as one of the teaching tools as well. Your divine, let's see, your I know this is horrible. I've forgotten the name of my own book, The Tribes of Light. I've written it a couple of times, but it has a new title. Anyway, Tribes of Light is one of the foundations for that course. So the book I wrote is actually in that course as well. So it's a nice way to kind of get a whole lot of information.
Yes. Yeah. So Sirius is known as the dog star because it's in the Canis Major constellation, Canis being dog. And it's at 14 degrees of Cancer right now. These fixed stars don't move very quickly. They appear as though they're fixed, but they change a degree approximately every 72 years, I think it is, or something like that. But anyway, Sirius is the most brilliant star in the heavens besides the sun. It's so beautiful and bright. If you haven't seen it, make sure.
Considered the North Star, or that's Polaris? Right?
Polaris is the North Star. Yeah, I believe Polaris is the North Star. Sirius is a different star than Polaris.
Does Sirius show up at certain times of the year, like hemispherical? Yes. It does. Okay.
Yeah, it shows up it's at 14 degrees of Cancer. So right now we can't see it because the sun is in Cancer, and the sun's rays go about 20 degrees in each direction. The sun is so big if you're looking at degrees. So today the sun is at 20 degrees of Cancer, right on my ascendant. So 14 degrees is like what would be called combust. It's so close you can't even see it in the sky because it's so close rising with the sun. Yeah, but other times of year you can see it beautiful and bright, especially like, you're going to be able to, it'll rise in August during the Lion's Gate anyway. With what happened especially in Egypt is they noticed that when Sirius was rising, that the Nile would flood. So that was the key. And the Nile, the life-giving force, the most fertile land in the world. Yeah, so that's why it was given such importance with the ancient Egyptians. I'm not familiar with the Mayan myths, but that's for Egypt. And people who have this in their charts, the United States, sun is conjunct Sirius. The United States sun is at 13 Cancer. The brightest one, the brilliant one, it's also called the scorcher. So yeah, that's a myth of Sirius. Sometimes people who have it very prominent in their birth charts may be susceptible to dog bites, supposedly, but I've never met anyone who had Sirius with a dog bite, but people can come to prominence if it's a key in their birth chart.
So you kind of get the gist of you get a dog bite or you get prominence. Your life really takes off, or you get the dog bite. You can go one or the way. So yeah, I get it. Okay, so with the Lion's Gate, that's also kind of in the time of Leo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like a Leo kind of energy too.
And Leo is ruled by the sun. The zodiac sign of Leo is ruled by the sun, the creative force, the center of our universe, where all life comes from the sun, all creativity comes from the sun. It's about self-expression. The house in your chart that Leo rules is ruled by the sun, and it's another place you can shed your light. So Leo is so important. Leo energy is positive. It's optimistic. It's it's joyful, radiance. Yeah, think about all those things with Leo. Now we have to watch not to tip towards arrogance or
of course,
domination and things like that. But this leadership energy, it's strength. And I think strength is 8. That isn't it in the tarot deck?
Yeah, it is.
That strength card. Yeah.
Balance. So, all right, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back to talk a little bit more about Lionsgate, and then we're going to move into the moon phases. Hey, welcome back. So we are with Celeste Brooks, and we have been talking about the Lionsgate and how important it is. Now, one of the things that you were saying is it deals with the star Sirius, right? But that also deals with on a tribe of light. Like when I work with clients, I work a lot with who's backing them, what kind of star beings, angels, galactic councils work with them. And so the Sirians are literally one of the tribes of light that sometimes star beings work with, like Lyrians, Sirians, and Pleiadians are 3 really ancient civilizations, not just as a star, but also as a temple of light, a dimension of consciousness, right? So the Sirians themselves are really enlightened beings. And so I'm wondering really that when we kind of get into any of these astrological portals that line up with Orion or Sirius or the Lyrian constellation or the Cassiopeia constellation, that our planet is able to like download and be in greater interdimensional communication with that dimension or those beings as well. What do you think about that?
That sounds, I don't know. I hadn't even thought about that before you brought it up. So honestly.
Okay, well, I'm throwing it out there.
Hey, it sounds great. We need all the help we can get.
Boy, I mean, do you feel like we are the thing in the center of the universe, or do you feel like there are other dimensions or consciousness out there that?
Well, there's definitely consciousness. There's definitely spirit, angels. I know, I can feel my guides, but the form that they're in, I don't know exactly. But yeah, no, I definitely feel like, obviously, life is not just what you see. There is the Neptunian realms, definitely.
Yeah. So in terms of your tribe of light, it feels like you actually work with a lot of planetary consciousness, planetary beings. I'm sure that will overlap into some of the star dimensions as well. So there's planetary beings, if you looked at tribes of light, and they work a lot out of their higher self. They're not as prone to be emotionally all over the place. They're a little bit more practical. And when they do come into their emotions, it's usually a depth of compassion. They usually think things through. They're more balanced. They look at how things can work for the whole versus just the one. So that's like the positive side of the planetary beings. And so when somebody comes in with a planetary consciousness, they usually have this really strong, brilliant, higher self, higher mental body. They can see the big picture. They're able to bring in new technologies, new ways of thinking, how to help community move forward in a more thought out way. An example of some of the planetary beings might be Obama, actually, very good oracle, good communicator, good in, like, regardless of what anybody might think of his politics, like it, don't like it, whatever, but he is a good example of a planetary being living kind of his higher cause, higher purpose. The opposite, like if a planetary being gets out of balance, then arrogance can be one of their downsides. They have to be right. They'd rather be right than be loved. You know what I mean? That's the downside of it, right? Like each tribe of light has their own. Whereas star beings are very childlike and, just very emotional. So they have a lot of that brilliant mental body, creative energy too, but they're more emotional and all of that. Whereas planetary beings are more like Atlanteans.
I've been told I'm from Atlantis.
Atlanteans, and so that may be one of your histories, Atlantis, being an oracle, being somebody who speaks well to the public to kind of get them to evolve. Astrology, it's a very well thought out thing. It's very spiritual, but it brings it and it grounds it into the world. So anyway, I feel
like a planetary being, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we can talk more about that later. So anyway, so with the moon phases, which is one of your specialties when it comes to astrology, because moon, I mean, a lot of people look at all the planets, but moon seems like it's a little bit more its own niche.
Yeah.
So what's different like between astrology versus when you're reading some of the moon phases? And do you do oh gosh, what's that? A spiritual astrology book where it talks about the lunar eclipses and the solar eclipses. Do you
Yes.
do that as well? Because
Yeah.
like that's part of the moon cycle is when there are
Mhm.
eclipses, people are born.
Yeah. Yeah. So the moon phases are just a facet of astrology.
Uh-huh.
Some astrologers don't spend much time with them, but I think they are so important. It may be part of because of a
Yes.
Cancer rising, as well as the thing I love about astrology is it's evidence based. We can say when X and Y happens, it's likely Z can happen. And then you can see it again and again and again and again in charts. And in, there's this, you can see it. So yeah,
Right.
so yeah, and the ancients thought the sun and the moon were planets, just like the rest of them. Up to Saturn was the furthest the eye could see. So Saturn was the end for ancient times. But the sun and the moon are also the luminaries. They shed. The sun sheds the light. The sun emits light, and the moon reflects it back at the sun. The sun, oh, I just lost my train of thought. So yeah, the sun emits the light, the moon reflects it back. And every single month they meet and month is a month. And it was used for timing. Astrology is all about timing. So the sun and the moon meet at the same degree in the zodiac, whispering secrets to each other, starting a new cycle in the dark because you can't see the moon at night because it's so close to the sun. And remember how I talked about, the sun having that big, it's like 15 to 17 degrees on either side. If something is near the sun, you can't be seen. So they whisper secrets to each other and talk to your soul about what it wants to create. And so solar consciousness is what we know with the conscious mind, and lunar consciousness is the subconscious mind. So it rules, reactivity. It rules what we need to feel safe. The moon rules a lot of things we can't see, but we know are there. And then as they move apart and the moon moves faster than the sun, the moon starts to pull forward. And a week later, approximately, there are 8 phases, but there are 4 like main phases. A week later, at the first quarter moon, they are in square formation. Squares are activating. You can think about like if you're sitting in a chair, that's like a square, and you need to use your feet to push yourself up, activating. And this is a time where people make decisions and take action. It's called the crisis of action at the first quarter moon. And then a week later, we have a full moon where the moon has waxed, grown in light. The moon gets lighter. You can see more and more. At the first quarter, it looks like the half moon in the sky. And at the full moon, it looks like the full moon. And they are 180 degrees apart in opposition. All is revealed, things are illuminated, and now it's time for us to release and let go of some things. We celebrate any wins and we release and let go. And then a week later, there's the crisis of consciousness at the last quarter moon, where there is the psychological integrations. We think about lessons we've learned and things like that. And then the moon's light wanes more, and then a new cycle starts in a different, most likely, house in our natal chart. So throughout the year and the different signs, our soul is being sparked to bring new things into our lives. And it depends.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, and it depends on whether a planet is being activated within a few degrees, on how big it is. Not every new moon is as important as every other, but
like, is it just individually, like depending on where it's at in my house, or do you mean like as a macrocosm as a whole, not every moon this is important?
For the individual, new moons are most, or any of the phases are most impactful when they are within a couple degrees of one of our planets or one of our points, like the ascendant or midheaven. Yeah.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Yeah. I've never really been that moon sensitive, in terms of like some people are very drawn to have their monthly cycle, their period, like for women around the new moon and stuff like that. And some people just really get very emotional around the full moons. And I'm usually a little bit more solar based, maybe because I carry a lot of that great central sun energy. So when there's solar flares, whew, I know it, man. It just like really brings it in. But we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna come right back and keep talking about the moon and the sun. All right, welcome back. Okay, so we are on it with the moon and the sun.
And I want to say something about that. You said you are that moon sensitive. Have you ever tried following the moon and noticing or just journaling around its changing signs? Because I would have said the same thing before I started working with the moon.
Well, yes. Okay. So this is the thing. I think that I have been underestimating the effect that the moon has on me. I think I'd like to do a session with you, actually.
Oh, good.
And a little bit more specializing with how the moon does affect me, because I'm probably underestimating it for one. And so no, I have not done that, but I think you're right. Like, I mean, it affects all of nature. It causes the ebbs and the tides and causes all kinds of stuff to happen. Yeah. And so if we're in this like major lion gate where it seems like the Sirius is coming in, so the Sirius, right? Where is the moon cycle going to be when we get into the Sirius? Because Leo's the big sun energy and bright light on the planet in the hemisphere that you're in. So what happens with the moon when it's got that much sun energy, like full sun?
Yeah, so there is a new moon at 5 degrees of Leo on July 28th. I'm actually having a new moon workshop for people who are interested in like really getting some intentions going.
Okay, and how can people get in touch with you? Because I know I want to do a kind of a moon astrological thing, but how can people get in touch with you?
Yes, so I am Astrology by Celeste everywhere. I'm especially active on Instagram. My website is astrologybyceleste.com, and that's where you can sign up for the setting intentions class, as well as get on my newsletter. And I have the Celestial Insights podcast for people who love podcasts and want weekly guidance on how to surf the energies like a boss.
Wow. All right. So Awakening, say it again, Astrology by Celeste, and that is with E on the end. Celeste, CELESTE.com.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So so how do you think things are going to be affected as we go into, I mean, what do you think about the Lions Gate in general? I mean, do you like it?
I think it's a positive time. To be honest, I've not felt it particularly myself as much. I feel like it's a very positive time to set intentions and to be present. And but I think whatever energy like unfolds like over time, I do like that there's a new moon right near it. That new moon on July 28th, I think maybe will make it like really more impactful for people who set intentions around that time, because I talk about these 27-month cycles where there's a new moon at an approximate degree. And so this is 5 Leo. Then 9 months later, there's that first quarter moon crisis of action. We have some illumination, and it will also be around the same degree. 9 months after that, there's a full moon. 9 months after that, there's a last quarter moon. So things in your life bigger projects, if you want to work with them intentionally, will come to fruition over longer periods of time following this. As well as, a lot of times I post these on Instagram every week where we are in these 27-month cycles. And sometimes people are gobsmacked about things in their life that happened around the dates that they had no idea was a story unfolding. So I think a story will start that would unfold over the the next 27 months, hopefully it'll be something positive. I just thought about it. I think that's where, that's opposite Zelensky's sun, Venus conjunction, I think he has. I'm just thinking about, the president of Ukraine. His Mars is in Leo. Hopefully that will be good for him.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, totally right. So there's a 27 month cycle. Is that happening all the time, or is it just happening kind of right now?
It happens all the time.
Ongoing, right? And it just wherever you pick it up is when it starts, or sometimes you pick it up and you're kind of in the middle. Like, how do you know when there's like a starting point to this 27 moon cycle, 27?
Every new moon starts a new 27-month cycle. So you'll have, So
it's like overlapping almost.
It's overlapping. We know where the sun and the moon are going to be 10,000 years from now. It's like clockwork. It's
it up.
Yeah, unless we destroy.
It's all going to be.
Oh, well, if we don't destroy the moon and the
sun and the earth all in one fell shot.
Well, we might destroy the earth. Well, but I think the moon will still keep going. I don't know.
No,
let's hope we don't.
Yeah, right. Okay,
and so that's what we can use this Lionsgate portal for, is like really praying for humanity to.
Yeah, right. Totally. Yeah. It does seem like it is a very good time for anybody who's wanting to do, and I'm going to talk to Tiffany about this. I know that when I do the blessing ball meditation on the 8th, calling in that Sirian energy and the great central sun energy and everything that we can, I will kind of lead it into a global meditation as well.
Oh, good.
On behalf of the whole. So anybody who joins, keep it in mind, it's a great time to do a global meditation.
I think that's wonderful. Yeah.
So these cycles, so you're sort of saying that 9 months, and that is, it's not exactly basically when our human being's born.
But it's a lunar gestational cycle. It's in line with gestation. Yes.
It is, right? Yeah, it seems like it. Yeah. And it seems like it's also very much like, when I'm thinking about it and just sort of visualizing it, it seems like it's based on the Fibonacci circle, sacred geometry. Like when I'm just watching that cycle energy and so many things in nature, that Fibonacci circle has a very set thing. I don't really know all the numbers and how they add up to that, but yeah.
I think so. Yes, definitely. Yeah. And it was an astrologer who noticed this pattern and wrote a book about it called Lunar Shadows.
Yeah. I know that when I, sometimes I'm teaching the Vision Quest, I'll teach them like usually on a solstice or an equinox. But when I tune in to how long the energy is going to run for, it normally is around 9 months. Like whatever we do in that like full on 7-day energy, it will usually take almost 9 months to unravel in our energy field, whatever's been downloaded. But I'd imagine that's true just in our human psyche, how we just process and move things, how we're born, our gestation, how we process. So
that makes sense.
With the moon, how do you feel like the moon affects us? Like a lot of people say it brings up your intuition. It gets you in touch with your unconscious. It gets you in touch with your feelings. And a lot of that can also relate very much to your soul energy, particularly the feeling aspect and intuition aspect of it. So how do you think the moon kind of affects our soul very specifically?
Yes. So the moon rules the people. It rules in mundane astrology when we talk about the astrology of current events. It rules the emotional body. It rules what we need to feel safe. It rules feelings. It rules reactivity. And so people behave differently based on what sign the moon is in. And you can track this. So when the moon is in yang signs, air and fire are yang. But let's just talk about fire. So when the moon's in Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, you'll see like people being more animated. Like Leo, you see people wearing red, or Aries, people more speaking a little bit forcefully, people more optimistic in Sagittarius in general. It depends where it is in your chart. When it's in Earth, that brings some practicality and groundedness. So Taurus may be a time where you want to indulge the senses. Virgo is my time to like get mundane tasks done. That is that chop wood, carry water energy.
Yeah.
Capricorn, like more strategic planning. When the moon's in air signs, it's more intellectual stuff. It's great. Air connects people. So when it's in Gemini, more chattering, you can get people gossiping more. Libra, people more in the mood for win-win solutions, negotiating. Aquarius, big picture thinking. And then in water, people are more internal. It's yin. Earth and water are yin. People are more emotional. Cancer, where the moon's at home, you may find yourself getting teary over an AT&T commercial, or really wanting to stay close to home, or feeling sensitive, like fearful about things. Scorpio, it's deep water, it's very intense. People may, be feeling like a little bit strategic or potentially long-term planning. Also can be a little angry or vengeful. And lastly, Pisces, that creative energy where as the mutable water, two fish swimming in opposite directions, where you may just want to get quiet and don't talk. The water signs are mute, and listen to music, go slow.
Wow. Well done, Celeste. Wow. You just like capped that off like that, man. That was excellent. You had that down. So listen, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back in just a moment. All right, welcome back. So if anybody wants to check out what I offer, I do soul blueprint readings, one-on-one sessions, vision quests, and I have a Hearts on Fire meditation group every Wednesday. You can go to mywildmagic.com. Again, that's mywildmagic.com to reach Celeste if you want to do an astrology reading, figure out how the moon or the astrology is affecting your chart, or to do her classes that she has coming up. You can go to Astrology by Celeste, CELESTE.com. And if you want to join in with Celeste and I both for a dual dynamic kind of weekend coming up August 7th and 8th with some other spiritual teachers and working with astrology and just really setting a really strong intention as we come into the summertime for the Lionsgate energy, you can go to wiseskiescollective.com and join up. Okay. All right. So Celeste, what you were doing was you were just running us through each sign in a moon cycle. So for instance, I just kind of want to say that with you. So basically, like we start maybe a cycle in Aries. So when we're in the month of Aries, which is mostly that April timeframe, that would be an Aries moon, right? And then we would go to a Taurus moon. And so it brings out, so anybody in the world is going to be experiencing the moon energy with the influence of those qualities, air, fire, earth, or
water.
Whatever the other way. Yeah, water. Thanks.
So the moon changes signs every 2.5 days. So the moon, every month we get the flavor of each moon.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but when we have a new moon, that energy in the new moon in Aries is in around end of March or early April in Aries season, where the sun and the moon come together in Aries. That new moon, it has that long tail of energy where it's kind of, we're working with the intentions we set at that new moon throughout that whole moon cycle. Yeah.
This is like fascinating. Like there's so much more astrology to the moon than what I realized, right? Okay, so basically you're saying that the new moon will be in the sign of that month. So the 12 different zodiac signs, and the new moon kind of says, hey, we're in this kind of month, which kind of dominates that energy overall. But then you're also saying every 2.5 days, the moon is changing up, which is why you do so many Instagram posts, is because the moon is changing up every 2.5 days as well. Okay, but then the other concept, which also affects us, is when the moon and or the sun go into an eclipse an eclipse. And that happens, does it happen sort of a certain amount of time of year?
Yes.
Like there are, I mean, I'm sorry, yeah, like 2 times for eclipse or 4 times, or what's the normal eclipse cycle for suns and moons throughout a year period first?
Eclipses happen twice a year. We have eclipse season. I think it's 173 days between the two of them. And so to understand eclipses, you have to understand, so astrology is based on, from thousands of years ago, based on us on Earth. And the ecliptic is the sun's apparent path around the Earth. Now we understand that the Earth moves around the sun, but the ancients saw it as the apparent path of the sun moving around the Earth. And we know the moon rules around the Earth because it's our satellite. And so the sun and the moon paths around us meet in 2 places, to the north and the south, and those are called the lunar nodes. And so an eclipse happens, it's a physical phenomenon when there is either a new moon where the sun and the moon are together, or a full moon right near the north or the south node where the sun and the moon are together. And eclipse means like put a shadow on. So when there is a solar eclipse, what happens is from there, it's all lined up in a line where the Earth, moon, and the sun are in a line. So the Earth moves between the sun moves between, the moon moves between the Earth and the sun at a solar eclipse, appearing to cut off the sun's light to us. So the ancients would be standing around in the middle of the day, and all of a sudden the sun goes out. And so they would, freak out. It was conceived as they're wild cards. You don't know what's going to happen with eclipses. And then with a lunar eclipse, the Earth is between the sun and the moon. And so there's this red glow that the moon can look like with a lunar eclipse. So this is intense energy. It's as though we walk through a door, and when we turn around, there's a wall. This is a portal, evolutionary portal, where things change. Big events tend to happen around the eclipses. So every year we see this big events happening around the eclipses, and they have a long cycle of energy because the nodes change signs every year and a half. So we are evolving as a peoples, as a collective, based on what signs the eclipses are in. And right now the North Node is in Taurus and the South Node is in Scorpio. So we're learning how to more keep things simple, and moving away from extremes is what the lessons of that polarity is. One of the lessons. There are many.
Yeah. Okay. That's so cool. I'm going to show this to one of my favorite books I was exposed to a while back is Jan Spiller's book. And it is the Spiritual Astrology. And this book is very cool because there's a chart in it, and she's got the updated version for younger people. But you can go and you can see, based on your birth chart, when was your lunar and solar eclipse right before you were born? And then it actually goes into, like, this is such an in-depth science, which I'd recommend people do a session with you on, because she gives you kind of a synopsis of like your birth chart. These are the issues you might have. This is what's going on. This is your life purpose. These are your challenges. Like, it is like a soul blueprint simply based on your
prenatal eclipses.
Your prenatal eclipses are an amazing birth chart for you based on your soul blueprint. So anybody who's wanting to know about their destiny, their life purpose, their challenges, their karma, this is a great book to start with. But I find it's so much information that having somebody like you, because very few astrologers do that, you know what I mean? Come back around to that. So we are out of time. It has been a delight talking to you. I highly recommend people call Celeste for a session, but I think to really work with the moon and to work with even their prenatal charts. At Astrology by Celeste with an E on the end.com. Check out anything I have to offer at mywildmagic.com. And please check out the Lion Gates portal before August 8th at wiseskiescollective.com. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Adrienne. It has been such a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to My Wild Magic with me, your host, Adrienne Cobb. Each one of us has a soul purpose on this earth and a higher purpose full of creative expression and unique soul attributes. Make sure to tune in next week on transformationtalkradio.com to continue your journey home to your truest self and pursue the path of unconditional self-love. If you would like to learn more about me, visit mywildmagic.com. Again, that's mywildmagic.com.